alone, I would watch the film again. And there are some interesting wrinkles to his character, like the only person who really gets under his skin is the woman, the older lady who they rescue, because she tells him some home truths about himself, and that tends to get under his skin. You know, you're like a sheathed sword and so on. And she's the only one who can really do it, and he starts to look a bit uncomfortable. And the way that translates later on, again, in the last movie we saw Sanjuro rescuing someone, but also being quite disgusted by them, that they actually needed rescuing, that he wasn't standing up for himself and needed Sanjuro's help. And this time I think he has a bunch of guys working with him who make silly decisions sometimes, make dangerous decisions sometimes, and he has a real distaste for that. And he's always sort of, you know, barking at them for what they've done. And in the end, when he has the final showdown with, I forget the character's name, he has more respect for him than any of the guys who he's been working to protect through the whole movie. And it's because he sees a certain kinship with him. He sees a certain reflection of himself there. And like the lady said, he was a sheathed sword too. So, you know, a lot to like in a film that I don't think was quite as good as Yojimbo. I can't remember what we were marking him out of last time, but 5 of whatever it was, I will give this one 3. It's a good, solid, enjoyable movie, but it is carried, I think, by Mifune as Sanjuro, whereas the last one had a really interesting setup too. So is this franchise fatigued? You know, I think it's kind of a shame that there's only these 2. I mean, I've read on the Wikipedia that there are films later on where he's either playing a character by the same name, but they're not necessarily the same character, or he's playing someone who acts very much like Sanjuro. So you could say that's Sanjuro and he's gone to a different place and he's just using a different name. When I ask myself, is it fatigued? I really want to see this character again, which is a shame because we never will now. So if that's the case, then I don't think it is, because he is, you know, he is like James Bond or something. The thing is, a Bond movie comes out, if you don't like it, then you might like the next one. And if you go through all 20 plus Bond movies that there are, it's ups and downs, So I don't think it's fatigued as such, even though I don't think this film was as good. They could have made another movie and really struck gold with it again. So I don't think it was fatigued, and it's a shame that we maybe didn't get like one more to round out the trilogy or something. I know there was a remake, but maybe that's a bit too deep down the rabbit hole, but I would like to just seek it out personally and watch it and see how it is. But I think it would really have to be something to top that central performance by Mifune. Okay, so I'm just going to jump on this horse to head to the Old West, and I will meet you there at noon.
Well, thanks, Tom. Those were some pretty hot takes.
Yeah, hot sake takes.
Something like that.
Anyway, so Brandon, I got to ask you, our money exchange count in this film, did you take note of how many times money was exchanged?
I got 0.
Well, there was a lot of talk about who was going to get hired where and how much money I want for this. You know, like at the end, Sanjuro's trying to negotiate 50, and they're like they're going to kill him. He's like, okay, 30. And he's like, okay, I'll just tell you. Actually, there was one case of money being exchanged, and that's when after the first battle, where Sanjuro saves all the 9 samurai, and they're like, oh, what can we do to repay you? And he's like, some money would be nice. And he gives them like his, the guy hands over his money pouch. And again, Sanjuro, like, he doesn't just take the whole thing. He kind of goes through it, takes a little bit. He's like, oh, this will do. And he throws the rest back.
Yeah.
So we have that one instance of it. It was not near as much as last time. So we have one instance of money being exchanged.
Okay.
And Sanjuro brings us to a grand total of 5 so far in this franchise.
That's a lot.
Yeah, for 2 movies.
That's a lot. Excellent, right on. Well, yeah, I like this movie, and I think that we should probably rate it. What do you think?
Yeah, so I would give this 5 out of $5 because I believe that's our scale. I know I said swords at first last time, and we're like, well, there's dollars are coming up more, so we're gonna go with dollars. So I would give this 5 out of $5 because it's just across the board, it's a great film.
Yeah,
like very impressed.
I would too. Yeah, I would too. I definitely gave this a 5 out of 5. I think both of these movies are 5 out of 5s. So I get to kind of cheat a little bit and ask you, because the next movie that we're going to go into is so different. But how would you rank these two? Which one did you like better?
That's real tough.
I already said that I liked Sanjuro better.
That is tough. I mean, they're a virtual tie, but I think I like Sanjuro better as well. Just because I like because there's more characters. I like him being like the mentor for these goofy other samurai. There's just, I don't know, that it never slows down. I mean, the other one didn't really slow down either, but I do think just across the board, I like this one a little better. And I can't quite put my finger on why, but if like okay, you can only rewatch one of these, I'd be like Sanjuro. So I'm gonna go with this one. And but Brandon, though, is this Fanchise Fatigue? Would you like to have seen a third, Sanjuro fill in the blank plant name movie?
Yeah, no, I definitely would love to have seen another one of these. Like I said last time, if Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman could have 26 films, then we should have had 26 Sanjuro films for sure. Like this is a character that is not going to be tired for a long time, and I can't wait until the next movie in this series. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, there aren't any.
No, yeah, I agree. I think the character is very malleable for any situation, as this one proved. It doesn't have to be the same thing over and over. I mean, eventually they might run out of Sanjuro uses his wits to pit two opposing sides against each other or something like that. But I think he could have kept
30-year-old cornflower. Yeah. But now I'm almost 50.
Well, I think he could have kept wandering the Japanese countryside and putting right what was wrong and things of that nature, and then wandered off at the end.
Sanjuro goes to Africa.
There we go. Sanjuro goes to Africa. Yojimbo Part 8. Sanjuro in New York. So
yeah, I mean, if
Sanjuro takes Manhattan, that's what it is. Sanjuro takes Manhattan.
If Ernest can go to Africa, then Sanjuro can go to Africa.
Very good, very good. So
Sanjuro saves Christmas.
Sanjuro goes to jail. They write themselves, but yes, a brilliant duology, and Brandon, what if only the Terminator films had stopped it too?
That's a callback.
Oh boy! So there you have it. 5 out of 5 for both of us. We both don't think it's fatigued, and this franchise will continue, but in a very different form, coming up in our next episodes.
Yes, and a different language.
Yes, in Italian.
Excellent, right on. Well, at this time, we'd like to thank the wonderful executive producers of the network, Ken Tripp and Tony Robinson. Thank you so much for your support, guys. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much to Zach Tripp, who has created our wonderful theme song that opens up every single episode. And be sure to, give us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. We'd really appreciate it. That helps us rise in the rankings and helps people find our show, share our tweets, share our Facebook posts. That helps get the knowledge out there so people can find the show. And yeah, I mean, if you want to support us on Patreon, you can pay us a couple bucks, get some episodes early. Zach and I are trying to come up with some fun things for some exclusive content over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/UFPEarth. You can find us on Twitter at UFPEarth. And you can find us out on email if you want to send us an email. That's contact@ufp.earth. Zach, where can people find you when you're not incorrectly telling people how many stories there are in your house?
Well, you can find me personally on Twitter at MooreOnZach. That's MooreOnCach. I'm also the host of my own podcast, Always Sold on to Smallville. You can find us over there on Twitter talking about each and every episode of That Young Superman show at Always Smallville with one S. And I'm also a host of Standard Orbit, Trek FM's original series podcast. You can find us over on Twitter at Trek FM, talking about the old and new adventures of Captain Kirk and the Enterprise. So, Brandon, when you aren't ripping up contracts and signing them in blood and sending them down the stream, where can people find you?
You can find me here on Fanchise Fatigue. Why would I tell you that? You can find me over on Trek FM with a show called The Line, which is all about the Star Trek Picard show that's coming out. And you can also find me over on the Fandom Podcast Network, as well as in our own independent feed with a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. And that is all that I'm doing now. And I'm okay with that. I like it. I get to sleep more. Anyways. Well, that's all we got for you this time. Until next time, we have got... Is it a fistful of dollars that's the first one?
I honestly don't know, Brad. See, this is why you should put numbers in your titles, people.
Numbers. Fistful of dollars 1.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think it's a fistful of dollars that's first, and then it's the few dollars more, and then it's the good, bad, and the ugly.
That makes sense.
One.
That
so,
chronology, yeah, that title chronology makes sense. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So there we go. So fistful of dollars is what we got coming up for you next. Until then, mushy mushy.
Sayonara.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.